You're listening to episode 145 of the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast. I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but this is the last Wednesday episode of year 2. But don't worry, because this week's Fuel Your Life Friday episode, we're ending year 2 on a big note, and I am outlining how you can score over $700 worth of freebies that will no doubt help you master your mind, business, and life. If you've been listening for a while, you know that my solo episodes slightly vary in format from my typical conversations on Wednesdays. And if you're new to the show, welcome and thanks for joining. You picked a really fun episode to start with, and as always, I encourage that everyone hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever it is that you tune in and turn up so you don't miss an episode. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with that intro music today so we can dive into this week's episode. I'm just too excited to hold off any longer. You know what to do. Tune in, turn it up, let's go.
You're listening to Master Your Mind, Business, and Life. Conversations with everyday world shifters, truth seekers, and rule breakers. Here's your host, Lauren Smith.
Even after 2 years, I still get asked this question all the time of what led me to starting this podcast. And honestly, my quick answer is always, well, I just had the urge to do it, and so I did it. And that is fact, but that's probably not the whole story. You see, back in January of 2018, I was going through a breakdown of my own, and I was trying to get very clear on what I wanted to do next. This was kind of when I was phasing out of social media and was looking for a purpose and something that I was passionate about. So I began to journal. And when I was journaling, I was writing out things like what I wanted to do. And I wanted to talk to cool people who I could learn from. And I wanted to explore areas of new topics that flourish my mind and challenge my beliefs and encourage my enlightenment. But I also want to share what I've learned with others who are also seekers on their own journey of figuring out this thing called life. But in that brain dump type of session back in January of 2018, I actually never wrote out that this would all come together in a podcast. In fact, that didn't even come together until April of 2018 when I was in the midst of writing my book. And I was thinking, okay, so what's next after this? And one of my very first mentors, Mac Monroe, had just launched his podcast, and he encouraged me to launch one as well. I wasn't really sure what I would have a podcast about at that time. So I went back to my trusty journal and I started flipping through the pages, and I saw that entry from January, and it just all aligned. A podcast to master your mind, your business, and your life. All of the things that I can nerd out on the regular. And clearly, you do too. So I had chosen August 22nd for my launch date, because 22 is a master number known as the master teacher number. And I chose August because, well, my kids were back at school. And let me tell you, it is hard to do a podcast with kids at home. So that's where August came from. So I figured that with this episode of, finishing off year 2, that I would recap and cover 3 main categories to give us kind of a rewind of this year. So we'll start with what was accomplished, because whoa. Let me just hit you with this number, 214.1%. That is the percentage of growth the podcast had in year 2. I am shook. This is insanely amazing, and I am truly grateful to everyone who listens, subscribes, and shares. Because of your subscribes and shares, the show has now been streamed in 151 countries across the world. Now, to put that in perspective, there are 195 countries. In 151 of those countries, whether it was one listener from that country or 20,000 from that country, they've tuned in and turned up. And that is so cool to me. Sadly, I don't think we'll hit all 195 countries, mostly because this show is marked as explicit now, because, sometimes curse words are dropped and sensitive topics are discussed, and some countries just ban explicit shows. But you know what? Even if 151 is the number it stays at for the rest of the show's time period, I am so damn proud of that number. We have also nearly doubled the amount of episodes that were dropped in year 2 with the addition of the Fuel Your Life Friday series that started back in November of last year. So in year 1, I dropped 52 episodes, and today's episode marks 145. We will end the season at 146. So I thought this would also be really cool to just tell you what the top 10 most downloaded episodes were in year 2, because they were great conversations. So the top downloaded episode in year 2 is also the top downloaded episode of all time right now, of the past 2 years combined. And that is the Twin Flame Energy Forecast for 2020 with Happy Souls 1111. Next, we have the Astrology Energy Update with Danielle Page, the Numerology Forecast for 2020 with Felicia Bender. Then, I'm so surprised at this one, a Fuel Your Life Friday breaking down the 444 portal, Astrology Forecast for 2020 with Christina Caudill, the Twin Flame Energy Update with Kay Moon, How to Master Your Money and Tackle Your Debt with Whitney Hansen, Understanding Your Anxiety with Natasha Fletcher, and then Real and Raw Marriage, Divorce, Infertility, and Being a Mom of 18 with Jen Taylor. And lastly, The Struggles, Strengths, and Characteristics of a Highly Sensitive Person with Patricia Young. I think it's safe to say that you all love exploring those spiritual or more woo topics like astrology, twin flames, and numerology, but also motherhood, finance, and anxiety, which now that I say those categories aloud, those are my actual typical topics that I like to learn about and nerd out with the most as well. So, some similarities there. Okay, so now that I feel like I've hit you with what feels like 1,000,002 statistics, let's discuss what's changing for year 3. Now, in December of 2019, I began changing up my social graphics to be a little bit more clean feeling. If you didn't notice that, then I doubt you'll even notice this, but I did change a few things on the mindbizlife.com website, mostly with the blog images. Very minor, but I'm slowly going to be switching up some of the aesthetics of the brand to be a little bit more clean and less in-your-face color overload. Now, as I mentioned on episode 143 with Norma Jean, I'm no longer going to hit you with the, hey everyone, it's Lauren Smith, welcome back to another episode after you hear my intro music. The short answer as to why is I'm just kind of over it. But the meatier answer is it just felt really redundant and I'd rather just jump right into the conversation with our guest. The third thing is not so much a change, but maybe more of a consideration. I've thought about hosting a third episode weekly, perhaps on Sundays or Mondays, in a style very similar to Fuel Your Life Friday, but with a different twist. Now, my considerations are to either have this for free or to create a Patreon account, which is a subscription content service, aka you pay like $5 a month and you get extra episodes, bonus conversations, and all kinds of other goodies. Tons of podcasters do this. I've been hesitant to do it mostly because I wasn't sure if it's something that interests you. If it is something that interests you and you would like to join it and have this exclusive bonus content, or maybe you just want more short weekly episodes in the format of the Fuel Your Life Friday episodes, let me know. Slide into my DMs on Instagram, Twitter, or even Facebook at MindBizLife, or shoot me an email and let me know at hello@laurensmithbiz.com. Okay, and the third thing that we're going to cover in this pretty short and sweet episode, I actually thought this would be a little bit longer. I'm not going to lie, I thought I was going to hit you with a longer podcast today, but you get what you get. But I would just want to look back on this wild and beautiful podcast journey to reflect on the question, what has this podcast taught me in the past 2 years? Okay, well, I honestly am not sure I can list every single little thing that I have learned. That would require me going back and re-listening to every single episode and writing a full list, because every guest has taught me something new or has sparked an aha moment. So from that perspective, I've gained a ton. But this experience has really taught me the value of listening and taking a pause and in holding space. It's taught me that while my voice holds so much power, so do my ears. It's taught me that I don't always have a proper response or even a response at all, and that it's okay to get tongue-tied. It's taught me that I have the ability to connect with people on a deep level in just 30 minutes. It's taught me that I can quite literally have an imperfect podcast setup, whether that's in my bedroom, my kids' room, or sitting on my walk-in closet floor. Because yes, all those things have happened, and I can still produce a great show. And it's taught me that checking show statistics every week is not productive. It's not even needed. So releasing expectations and trusting the process fully is far more valuable. And if I'm being real, year 2 also taught me that my intro music was way too loud. Seriously, that feedback was from a listener and I took that to heart. And since I've implemented the intro music at a softer level, more people have thanked me. I didn't even know that was an issue. So seriously, it took almost a year and a half of this podcast show for anyone to speak out and say, yo, that intro music needs to be turned down a little bit. So thanks. I fixed it and the feedback's been amazing. So that's another thing I have learned. There's been a lot of growth and memorable conversations throughout the past 2 years. And I am so thankful that you stuck with me and continue to listen each week and share. And oh my goodness, even reach out to me when I get emails or messages that follow up on a conversation or ask me for more resources. It seriously gives me life and encourages me to keep going, because there are days, like we all have, that you just don't feel like showing up, where it would be easier to cancel or reschedule a call or just say, hey guys, I'm taking a break from the podcast this week. I get those a lot. But your messages and encouragement and just letting me know that this content is helping your life, is helping you grow and understand or step outside the box, that keeps me going. So like I said earlier on this week's Fuel Your Life Friday episode, we will be celebrating year 2 with a huge surprise celebration that you're not going to want to miss. And when I say you don't want to miss, I'm talking $700 worth of freebies that you have a chance to get. I will see you on Friday, but until then, remember, every level of life is an opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.